Hello there everybody, how's it going? It's Jessie from Jessie Marie Does Stuff here on FlossTube, and I am coming to you on this Saturday, August 24th, 2024 with my next update video. Well over a month since my last update. Sorry about it. It's just been a busy season. Before I get into everything though, welcome everybody. Welcome to both my returning viewers as well as anybody who is new here. Perhaps you are viewing one of my videos for the first time. Thanks so much for coming by. Thanks y'all for spending part of your day with me. On this channel I talk mostly about cross stitch, though sometimes I talk about books and knitting. On the docket for today, on the plans for today, I think I want to try to keep things somewhat bare bones and stick to mostly just cross stitch. And then we're going to save some extraneous things for another video that I hope to be able to film in the coming week. So here's kind of where my head is at. It's been over a month since my last update, and I worked on a ton of projects as per usual. So I have a bunch of projects to share with you. And I tried to film this video last weekend, a whole week ago, and I hated the video. I just wasn't in the mood. I was too rusty. I was struggling with my words. I had the FlossTube itchy nose up the wazoo. Like, it was not a good filming day, and so I just scrapped it and decided to try again. And so I think that maybe doing something a little bit more simple today, just sticking to the WIPs and saving some of the other things for next time, I think that's probably a good plan. So that's kind of what we're going to do. I'm going to talk to you about the things that I have worked on, and as well as what I'm currently working on. I have a small discussion on plans, and I'm going to do a couple of shout outs today because I rarely ever do, and the muse has struck, and so I'm going to do a couple of shout outs. And then I'm going to assess and decide about a book segment. I have read a couple of books in the last 6 weeks, I think is what it's been since my last update. So I've read 2 books, and I'm very close to finishing another one that I'm going to finish up today. So we'll kind of cross that bridge when we get there, see what kind of time we're looking at by the time we get to that point. I have a ton of Q&A to go over. I have some giveaways that I'm really excited to share with you all. I have some knitting updates. That's going to wait until the next video. My daughter is in preschool now. It's wild. And it feels very strange to say that because her first day of preschool was August 12th, so almost 2 weeks ago. And so we went for that first week. And this last week, she's been at home again because she got sick. Being stay at home and not really having much kid interaction, we knew it was coming. And it showed up. It arrived. And we got back to school crud/cold. And I almost sent her back to school on Friday this week, but it was just out of the cards. She's able to go back to school as of last Wednesday, but I kept her home because she was just miserable, and she's really not great about covering her cough. She's pretty inconsistent with that. I just don't want her sharing that with everybody there. But she's going to be ready to go back on this coming Monday. She is doing half-day preschool 3 days a week, so it's only a few hours each of the days that she goes, but it's getting her in the swing of things, getting her used to school, and I cannot believe she's a preschooler, but nonetheless, we gotta move forward and try to get over that. I mention all of that because the hope, the plan, the wish, the dream is to be able to start filming every week again. I mean, inevitably, we're going to be fluctuating through illnesses for maybe the whole school year, maybe through winter. Who knows? We're just kind of taking things as they come. But the hope and the dream and all of that is to be able to start filming on Wednesdays again. I don't know why, but Wednesdays has always felt like my day. It's always been like my favorite day to be able to film updates. And that's in 5 days. So I am going to save all of the extraneous stuff for that Wednesday update. So if you have any questions for me, I'm going to do a big Q&A segment on Wednesday. If you have any questions for me, put them in the comments of this video, and I will either address them in the Q&A segment there or get right back to you. So, okay. I think that's enough for the preamble stuff. So let's jump right in, and we're going to start off with a couple of shout outs. I have 2 shout outs today. I almost had a third, but the third is a new FlossTuber, but I haven't had a chance to watch their first video yet. So that may be a conversation for another day. However, 2 FlossTubers that I want to mention to you. The first is Susan at Criminally Creative Podcast. So Susan has been doing videos for YouTube for a while. Started out doing a more yarn-focused podcast and has shifted towards FlossTube. And it is more, I would say, FlossTube with some yarn stuff sprinkled in on top. So Susan commented on my WIP parade and said, it seems like we have about the same number of projects. And so I headed over to her channel and watched the first little bit of her, at the time, most recent update. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back and catch up with Susan and get to know Susan a little bit. And so I started with her beginning of the year WIP parade, or end of last year WIP parade, and watched everything since that point. So she films every 2 weeks, mid-month and beginning/end of month. And so it was a few videos to catch up on, but it was so much fun. I just have to tell you, Susan is fantastic. She does indeed have about the same number of projects that I do. I had a chuckle, and Susan, if you're watching this, I meant to leave this as a comment and then I didn't, and now here we are and it's too late. Anyway, so like I said, I went back and watched her beginning of the year WIP parade. And she said, I've got 90 some odd projects. I do not have the time to go through absolutely everything with these. Otherwise, this thing is going to be 4 hours long. And I had a laugh because you were correct 8 months ago. a WIP parade where you go through all of the things and show all of the projects and all of the project bags and whatnot. It's about 4 hours. Can confirm it's about 4 hours. I just thought that was incredible foresight, and it was just very, very fun. So yeah, Susan has about the same number of projects that I do, and she has about the same kind of variety. I will say that my projects, you don't see a whole lot of patriotic because patriotic stitching is not, it's not really my avenue, but Susan does do patriotic stitching. So go check her out. In fact, let's flood her channel with subscriptions. I mean, really, like, y'all pause this video right now, click the link in the description box, go follow her channel and hit subscribe. Because like I said, she's been doing this for a while, and she's, I think, 600 some odd subscribers. We can do better than that. So let's do better than that. Let's crowdsource some subscriptions for Susan. She's fantastic and very much enjoy her channel. I have added her to my list of, I watch these people's videos the moment that they're released. Yeah, I really look forward to Susan's video. So anyway, go check out Susan's videos and enjoy. Okay, the second FlossTuber shout out that I want to do is for Jenn, the Caffeinated Crafter. You know her, you love her. I know her, I love her. She is so much fun. She has a ton of projects, somewhere in the realm of 300. That number includes some future new starts, I think. I think that I don't know what her active WIP count is at this point, but anyway, she has a ton of projects, a lot of full coverage. It is full coverage eye candy. And I love Jenn because in a way, we are somewhat kindred spirits. And I have gone away from this, but constantly reinventing the wheel. Constantly trying to find a rotation that really works and really settles well. And everything that Jenn comes up with, I'm like, I wonder if I could do that too. I wonder if that would work for me too. At the beginning of the year, she had one plan, and I was like seriously putting pen to paper to see if I could make it work for me for next year. With the milestone goals. And then she recently switched it up again. Highly recommend all of her plans videos because they are just so much fun. And then her most recent plan, I'm like, I wonder if that would work for me. I wonder if that's a thing for me as well. So like very inspiring to take a look at rotations and figure out maybe alternative ideas. I got the chance to meet Jenn at Stitching in the Springs last fall because Jenn finished Glory of Autumn while we were there, and then I finished Glory of Autumn about a month later, and it was just, we had a very brief conversation about the crazy backstitch on Glory of Autumn, but just, she's fantastic. She's a lot of fun. If you aren't watching Jenn, also go like flood her subscriptions and make it happen. So also linked in the description box below. So that's it for the shoutouts. Let's get into some cross stitch and talk about the projects that I have worked on over the last 6 weeks. I normally do my WIP updates in a very particular order. I normally do chronological, regardless of if it was a finish or a page finish or a new start or what have you. I usually go very much in chronological order. But making the decision to show you everything that I have worked on over the last 6 weeks, chronological, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense because I have worked on several of these projects multiple times over the last 6 weeks, and so coming up with a clean timeline is too much. It's too busy. It's too wild. So we're going to do things a little differently this time. And I'm going to talk about finishes first, and then we'll move into page finishes, and then into the works in progress that haven't reached any page finishes or finished status or anything like that. So we're going to start with a major finish, one that I am just so thrilled to have finally reached the finish line. And that lived, past tense, in this project bag. This is a bag by Fab Shabby Rose. Fab Shabby Rose is on Etsy. I've also seen her sell on Cross Stitch Stash Unloading on Facebook. So head on over to those sources if you like these bags. Her bags are really quite thick and sturdy. So in here lived my Farmhouse Christmas. So exciting. Farmhouse Christmas is by Little House Needleworks, and I have all of the charts here, all 9 blocks. And I started this project in April of 2018 with grand illusions. I'm going to set those there. That I was going to stitch the whole series and have it ready for Christmas that year. And here we are, 6 years later. It's finally done, and having it ready for Christmas this year is actually within the realm of possibility. So I had 8 of the 9 blocks done, technically. And then I had the 9th block just barely started the last time y'all saw this on FlossTube. And then I was headed to Stitch, New Jersey, thinking that I was going to finish this project while at Stitch, New Jersey. But what always happens with me with this project is I got bored of the color palette. And so I did some really great work while I was at Stitch, New Jersey, but I didn't finish it until, gosh, was that really 2 weeks ago now? Yeah, 2 weeks ago. So, like I said, I was working on block 9, and that is Baba Black Sheep, and here is the block all finished. So I stitched this series on 32 count Belfast linen in flax from Zweigart. I used all of the called for threads, which was a mix of Classic Colorworks and DMC. The only exception to that is that I don't use an over-dyed white, and so I swapped the Classic Colorworks bamboo for DMC 3865. because yeah, I just wasn't going to use the quote-unquote fancy white when I didn't have to. So I used that soft winter white, but otherwise the threads are as called for. One of the people characters in one of these blocks has a different shade for her face, because I was being lazy and I didn't want to get up and retrieve the right color. But otherwise, as called for. So there is block 9, and so after I finished block 9, I had 2 blocks that I had to go back and add the outside borders to, so I did that. So now the whole series is complete. So here's blocks 8 and 9, and these are on a bunch of pieces of fabric, which we'll talk about here in a second because that's noteworthy. And then here's a few more blocks. I don't know what numbers these are. I know that's block 1. That's for sure. And then I have this piece of fabric with 4 of them. And I know the quilt block is the center. So, all done. It's all finished. Nothing's been ironed because I don't ever iron anything before I show up to show on FlossTube. Not hardly ever, but that's okay. I am going to get these ironed, and then I'm going to send them off to a finisher. I'm not sure who yet. To have them finished because about 6 years ago I went over to Michael's and I bought a farmhouse window that has 9 spaces with little clips to be able to display something in, that has been waiting in the wings for this to be done so that I can display this at Christmas. So yeah, so that is all of them finished. So I want y'all to look at this and tell me if you see what I see. These fabrics are not the same shade. Either flex has changed or something got slightly mislabeled, or who knows, but they are not the same. It's not enough of a difference for me to do anything about. And you might have noticed without me saying something, but I would reckon that most of the people that are going to actually see this finished in person, from like probably November 1st through at least the end of February. This is going to be on display for a long time. I reckon that the majority of people that see this in person are never going to notice the difference between the shades of fabric. And my expectation is that the finisher is probably going to finish these pretty close to the edge anyway, so like it's just not going to matter. It's not going to matter for me to make any changes. But when I got them all finished and I laid them out, I was like, wow, there's definitely a shade difference there. Like the recipe for making the flax color, if you will, from Zweigart, changed at some point. So anyway, Farmhouse Christmas is done. So exciting. Yeah, I am just so geeked. It's done. So I got the finish, and I had somebody in my DMs ask me if I was going to do fall on the farm, which is, if it's not an ongoing series, it is their most recent series, a similar situation of 9 blocks, and the center block is a quilt block. And so a seasonal series is tempting. I would make different decisions if I decide to go that route, if I decide to do that. But to be able to keep my farmhouse window up year round and just kind of switch out the blocks, gosh, you know that switching out, it is so appealing. So I'm gonna put a sticker in that one, put a pin in that idea, and come back to that another time. For now, I need a little bit of a break from the Little House Needleworks. So yeah, so that's the plan there. But Farmhouse Christmas, done. Check it off the list. So exciting. Okay, the next finish I have to show you is awesome, but definitely much smaller. So that lives in this project bag. This is a bag by Black Cat X Stitchery over on Etsy. And in here lives my monthly Quaker series by From the Heart Needleart by Wendy. So I finished the August block towards the end of July. I played along with Katie, the Naptime Stitchers, Stitch the Summer Olympics, and I'm not going through each of the events and what project, but I do know that I kind of bookended that event with finishes. The first day of Stitch the Summer Olympics, I finished this block, and the last day of Stitch the Summer Olympics, I finished Farmhouse Christmas, so that's kind of cool. So this also has a new start on it, so I'll show you that in just a moment, but let me close in on a finish of the August block. So there's the August block all finished up. I also worked on this a little bit while at Stitch New Jersey, and then I had, I want to say, like 800 stitches to do, and so I just finished up the block before the end of July. I'm stitching these on 28 count antique white cashel linen from Zweigart. I am using the DMC conversion provided by Wendy for the most part. So I am using the DMCs that she has called for, stitching 1/1 full cross. She has charted these in Classic Colorworks. Because I'm stitching them so tiny, I didn't think it was worth it to me to purchase all of those Classic Colorworks. And also you would probably never see much of the variegation. So yeah, just decided to go with the DMC. The only exception to that rule, if you will, is the July block. I did swap out the red for what I thought was a pinky coral. And it's definitely more of an orangey coral. So I don't hate it, but I don't love it either. So I am on the fence of what I'm going to do about it. I am either going to painstakingly frog out that coral, or I'm going to stitch it again, and either use the called for thread or a different color. I'm on the fence. Like I'm really undecided on that one. The other thing I don't like is that this motif here ran into a big slub, and so the symmetry on that diagonal is really affected. Anyway, so that's a conversation for another day. I gotta slow down, because we're here to talk about August. I loved this one. I really did. I did not dislike these colors. I like a kind of a mossy green. And I really liked this big motif. That was fun. This project is one of my small monthly goals. I try to work on whatever monthly Quaker I'm actively on to the large motif finish, and then some small motifs around it if I have the time for it. To hopefully finish the series by the end of the year, which would be fun. So I'm going to show you this now because we're here. I also, further on down the line in Stitch the Summer Olympics, I started September Quaker. So that is this one here. And this one calls for Classic Colorworks Plymouth Rock. The DMC that she calls for the substitution is 3888, which to my knowledge is not an actual DMC. So I'm assuming that was a typo. And so I just discovered the other day that I do have a skein of Plymouth Rock for a Cottage Garden Samplings chart. But at the time I was referring to the internet, and it was giving me kind of mixed information with the DMC conversion for Plymouth Rock. So I went with 318. So there's my threads there. And so I got this started, and at first I was like, I'm not so sure I love this color palette. And now I think this might be my favorite. I really like that. I really like how that's coming together. I think the 318 is not quite as dark as Plymouth Rock, and I'm okay with it. I like how that is coming together. So I consider this one to be my big motif, and then this one to be a medium. because I think that took like 3 lengths of thread, and this one took probably like 6. Anyway, so that's where I'm up to. I'm at like 30% on the September block. So I am likely going to finish the September block in September and continue on my way. I may have to get to a point where I am stitching each block start to finish within the month, because otherwise I'm not going to get this done in time by the end of the year. So that is where I'm up to with the September block. One thing I did want to mention with all of this is that I have been very frequently recharting things into my charting software to be able to convert to a Pattern Keeper compatible version. I have become such a snob for PK that I've been doing that a lot. And when I post about it, I get a lot of questions. So I use Max Stitch, and then I just go stitch by stitch into the converting into the software. I'm usually doing this for very simple things. So like I'm not up to a point where I'm doing this with Mirabilias yet. But I'm doing this with very simple things. So these Quakers go real easy. This takes me less than an hour to do these because a lot of times they're very symmetrical. And so it can be a copy, paste, twist around kind of a deal. And I did it with the last block on Farmhouse Christmas. Yeah, so I'm usually doing that with very simple things. But it's just Max Stitch, stitch by stitch. It's not, I haven't yet figured out how to scan it into my printer has a scanner in it. I haven't figured out how to scan it into Max Stitch to make things even faster. I haven't worked out how to do that. I haven't really tried, but that's how I do it. All right, let's get into some page finishes because I've had 2 full coverage page finishes and 1 non-full coverage page finish that came very unexpectedly, but let's go. All right, so up next is the project that I was working on the last time I filmed, living in this project bag. This is a bag by Be Busy Bags over on Etsy. And this bag is pretty perfect for what it houses. This is Little Wings. So Little Wings is artwork by Jeremiah Ketner. This was charted by Heaven and Earth Designs. Jeremiah Ketner is no longer with HAED, and so this chart is effectively retired. You can find Jeremiah Ketner with Thread Geeks and Charting Creations. However, Thread Geeks and Charting Creations, to my knowledge, don't have the same charts that HAED did. So this one, as of my knowledge today, is not available anywhere currently. But anyway, preview here what this will look like finished. I was working on this towards my WIP Go goal in July, and the goal was the page finish. And it took a lot longer than it should have because I was working on this in advance of Stitch New Jersey, and so leading up to travel, I'm never great at stitching. It's never super great, and other various life stressors and whatnot. So this took a little bit longer than it should have, but that's all right. I did indeed get the page finish. So at the beginning of the year, I set the goal on my full coverage pieces to hit 4,000 stitches. And I had, at the beginning of the year of this one, 3,800 stitches left to do to get that page finished. So I went ahead and did the first 2 blocks of page 2 to hit that 4,000. And I love it. I love this project so very much. It is just so pretty. These colors are fun. Stitching this flower was fantastic. Yeah, I had a hard time putting this one away. Even though it took me way longer than it should have, I had a hard time putting it away. Fabric is 25 count easy grid Lugana from Zweigart. I'm stitching this 1/1 full cross with the Cold 4 DMC. As is the case with all of my full coverage pieces, I have swapped out the black DMC 310 for Anchor Black, Anchor 403. Because I think it gives just very slightly better coverage when stitching the way that I do. So that is the page finish on Little Wings. This project is done for the year. I have begun to think about planning for 2025. And tentatively, the full coverage goals are going to drop significantly. This year, the full coverage goals were a lot, and next year I'm gonna drop that down a little bit. I had kind of come to the conclusion that I may do set the goal for 1,000 stitches for each year since I started each of my full coverage pieces. So this one I started in 2021, and so next year it would get 4,000 stitches. It will not be enough for another page finish, but it will still get some progress next year. And there are a few projects in here that have some exceptions to that rule, if you will. But tentatively, that's the plan for this one, is 4,000 stitches next year. So it's the same as what I got this year. So, you know, there's that. Up next in the page finish category, if you will, is a full coverage project that came up for me for WIP Go here in August. I started working on it in July for Stitch the Summer Olympics, and also because I wanted to. I'm finding with the way that I have things set up for this year, working on things when I want to feels like, I don't know, it feels like I'm breaking the rules, and I don't love that. So that's kind of informing some ideas about next year, but that's a conversation for another day. For now, that project lives in this project bag. This is a bag by Brass Button, Jenn, over on Etsy. And in here lives my summer montage. Summer montage is artwork by Janet Stever. This is charted by Paine Crafts. There's another version of this floating around that's not a true full coverage pattern. It is by Jan Lin. It's a kit by Jan Lin. And a bunch of folks are stitching the various versions of these, be it the kits or these full coverage ones from Paine Crafts. I feel like I have been willing WIP Go to call this project since like May. Summer around here starts about mid to late May, even though the official summer solstice isn't until towards the end of June. But I have been wanting to work on this for months, and so super thrilled that it finally came up for WIP Go in August. Paine Crafts pages are so cute. Like, they're adorable. Just to give you kind of an idea, the very first page on Heaven and Earth Designs, on a standard Heaven and Earth Designs, is 7,840 stitches. I am about 2¼ pages into this one, and I'm at 7,700. Each of these pages is 3,500 stitches, so I am at over 2 pages, and I still haven't quite reached what the stitch count is for a first page of a HAED, which is just hilarious to me. But anyway, so here is where I am up to with Summer Montage, and oh, do I love this. This is just, it's so much fun. So my fabric here is a 25 count Vintage Country Mocha from Zweigart. I'm stitching this also 1/1 full cross. I went with the Vintage Country Mocha just to try something else. I just wanted to give it a try, and I really like it. I really, really enjoy it. So yeah. So page 2 just so happened to be the border of the rose block here. So you can kind of see the frame there. It's super pale shades, but nonetheless, you can see that there. And then I have come down here to start working on, I think it's like page 9 or something like that. So yeah, so I am working my diagonals there. I have one more block to reach the right side of that page. So yeah, these pages are adorable. So like I said, my full coverage goal for the year is at least 4,000 stitches into each of my full coverage pieces. I was 200 stitches into this second page when I pulled this out, so I needed to do the 3,300 stitches left for the page finish, and then another 700 to hit my 4,000 goal. And so I did that, and that's why you see that there. So one of the questions that I get asked a lot is, am I going to stitch this in the blocks? And what is the next block for me? And the short answer is no, I'm not stitching this in the blocks. I know that that's what Carolyn of Seazook Stitch is doing, and Colette the Highway Stitcher, and Sarah Stitch and Mommy. I know that that's what their proposed plan was. For me, I am just a little bit too stuck in my ways, and so I'm going to be doing this in the pages diagonals as I do for everything else. It just so happened that the border was at the edge of page 2 here. That's just really just how it worked out more than anything. So for me, I need a little bit more variety. Logically speaking, the next block to do is the watermelon block here, which is the same color palette. And I need more variety than that. And I need to be able to see some other things develop at the same time. So I'm going to be doing mine in the diagonal pages, which you can kind of already see has begun here. I have done the bottom border in this first block for the rose, and the top little corner of this big block here with the birdhouse and the hat hanging on the wall. And that the gold wall background has begun. So that's going to be my plan for this pattern, just doing my own thing, if you will. So that is where I'm up to now with Summer Montage. This project is now done for the year, and according to the plan that I mentioned before, this one is due to get 2,000 stitches next year. That will leave me with 800 stitches left of the page, and so I will probably bump that up to just include the page finish, because like I said, these pages are cute. So that is Summer Montage. Up next is a page finish, but it's not a full coverage piece, and it's also perhaps unexpected. During Stitch the Summer Olympics, I wanted to work on this piece a lot more than my small monthly goal. And even now, I want to work on this some more here in August. And I've already done 3,000 stitches on it this month. So that is a project that lives in this bag. This is by Stitch and Button. Vic over at Stitch and Button. And in here lives my Ragnarok. Ragnarok is by Long Dog Samplers. And this piece is, I don't know how I feel about calling it my favorite WIP, but it's sure sitting up there as my favorite WIP. I just love working on this. It is super soothing, and I get a lot of stitches very quickly, and I like the imagery. I just have fun with this one. So my small monthly goal for this piece is 500 stitches a month. And I went way over that and got page 3 finished. Now the page finish was a bit of a surprise. I knew I was going for 3,000 stitches. And so hitting the page finish was like a bonus. But it also kind of helped me decide what my plan is for this project. So yeah, anyway, let me show you this and then we'll talk. My fabric here is a 40 count Newcastle linen in Sweeney Red by Dames of the Needle. Gorgeous, gorgeous red. It's showing up fairly true there. I'm stitching this one strand over 2 with anchor 403, anchor black. And then the back stitch as called for with just one strand. I love this so much. I find myself unable to stop. I want to get one more motif done, or finish the thread, or finish the 6 strands that I have just cut off the skein. I'm obsessed with this one. I mean, just plain and simple, I am obsessed with this one. So like I said, I was working on this during Stitch the Summer Olympics, and so I've decided that these two are Snoop Dogg and Flavor Flav, because it just makes sense. And I love it so much. It is just so much fun. It's just so fun. So I think my plan moving forward, this whole design is either 12 or 16 pages. 4 pages across. So I'm going to aim for a row of pages each year. And so I'm going to, instead of doing my 500 stitches goal for the rest of the year, I'm going to do a quarter of the page is going to be my goal for next month, and we'll see how many stitches that is. I imagine that it's going to be closer to like 1,000 stitches. So yeah. Over here in this bottom corner, we got started on the horse, the 8-legged horse. If you look at the pattern long enough, you start to count way too many legs for that horse. That's Odin's horse. I just have so much fun with this project, and so I'm going to aim for a row of pages a year, so that will get me finished either 26 or 27, depending on the actual number of pages in this project that I cannot remember. I think it's 16. If yeah, I'd be willing to say it's 16 pages. So love it so much. Ugh, so much fun. Okay, so that is it for the page finishes. So let's pull this pile a little closer and talk about some works in progress without any milestones reached. And the first one we're going to talk about, you've had a sneak peek of that I realized very recently, is Personal Sunshine. So preview here of what this will look like finished. This is Personal Sunshine. Same notes as Little Wings. Jeremiah Ketner. Ketner's not available on Heaven and Earth Designs anymore. This one is not available from Thread Geeks or Trident Creations, to my knowledge, as of today. So this is the piece that at the beginning of the year, I took my remaining stitch count left, broke it up over 12. I'm working on a section of about 5,500 stitches a month to see the finish by the end of the year. I'm going to finish this one this year. So I worked on this in July to just under halfway to my goal. I did not meet the goal in July. So that left me with about 8,400 stitches to do here in August. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. It might, but odds are not great. So that's all right. I'm comfortable with that. I will keep chipping away at it, and I will get caught up with this one because I want that finish at the end of the year. I thought about sort of restructuring my goal to space out the amount that I'm behind, to space it out evenly over the rest of the year, but I'm just going to try to catch up, and then I will continue with the 5,500. So this is on 25 count antique white Lugana from Zweigart. It's just a plain Lugana. It's not pre-gridded or anything. Same notes as before, anchor black instead of DMC 310, otherwise called for DMC 1/1 full cross. I am working on page 10 here, and I have finished out the sun. So that's kind of the big thing most recently. I finished out the sun in July, and I am working my diagonals now. This, at the bottom of the diagonal that I'm currently working on, you can see I stopped in the middle of a block, which I never do. But the bottom of this diagonal will hit the bottom of the page, so that's very exciting. I meant to look this up before I started filming, and then I forgot. I'm going to put on here on the screen the number of colors I have zeroed out up to this point. It's somewhere in the 20s, I think. I think I'm down to 70 colors on this one. Which is really, really exciting. But yeah, the sun finished out a bunch of colors. Those golds are not anywhere else but in that sun. I have a couple more that will get finished out here at the bottom because this branch here has these flowers on it. And so one of the flowers is going to finish out a couple more colors, I think. So that's where I'm up to with Personal Sunshine. A little bit behind, but nonetheless, we are moving forward. The coverage always looks worse on camera than it does in person. So no fret. It's not that spotty. It looks super spotty, but that's just the nature of light. So yeah, that's where I am with Personal Sunshine. Up next is a project that I worked on unexpectedly, but it happened to work out. August 3rd was Sammy J. Stitch's birthday, and she was starting a Carolyn Manning design. Fortunately, the Stitch the Summer Olympics prompt worked well for Carolyn Manning for that day. And so instead of have a new start, despite the fact that I kind of wanted to, I pulled out my sweater weather. Sweater Weather by Carolyn Manning Designs. So I spent the day with this piece. This is my only full coverage piece that is on 32 count Belfast linen 2/2. And so yeah, it's the only one that's a little bit different. So in May, I finished page 1 here. And so here at the beginning of August, I worked my way to the right corner directions. I worked my way over to the right corner. So I have the top to the middle and to the right. I've got 2 corners. So very exciting. I did about 1,000 stitches in May and 800 stitches here in August. So I still need another 2,100 to reach my 4,000 stitch goal. This is my focus on a finish for next year. So we're going to be seeing this rather frequently next year. But I do need to get that 2,100 stitches into it now to make my monthly goal just a little bit more manageable. Up next is another unexpected project. Okay, this one comes with a story because they all do, but this one comes with a little bit of a story. I finished up Farmhouse Christmas. I head to my computer, which I'm looking at right now, but I head to my computer to do my computer updates, to move Farmhouse Christmas from my WIP list to my finish list, etc. Do all of the things. I have this little table that I am tracking my, let me see if I can explain this so that it makes sense. Finishes by the year that they were started. Okay, so what does that mean? Earlier this year, I finished Horror Movie Alphabet, which I had started in 2016. Farmhouse Christmas, I started in 2018, etc. So I have this little table. And at this point, at finishing Farmhouse Christmas, I had finished a project with a start date from every year eligible, 2016 through 2024, except for 2019. 2019 is my only year that I haven't reached a finish on in 2024. And I know that sounds clear as mud, so table here. Hopefully that helps explain what I was trying to say. I have very few projects from 2019. I don't have a whole lot of 2019 projects. I didn't have a lot of starts that year. And so pickings for one to try to finish this year, very slim. But I would really like to finish out that table. That feels like a good goal to have. So the only one that I thought was actually eligible is this one. So that is the project that lives in this project bag. This is a pineapple house bag. And so in here lives Garden of Erie. And sorry for the glare. This is like original Plum Street printing with the big full sheets. But that is Garden of Erie. I love this project so very much. It is really the only one that is even remotely feasible to finish this year. So I added this project to my Arbitrary August wheel, and it spun it first opportunity. I was going to do Arbitrary August this month. That has fallen by the wayside. Pretty much after this project. But it was the very first one to come up, and so I worked on it for a couple of days. I have decided that I may try to break this up over the remaining 4 months of the year to try to see the finish by the end of the year. A lot of this is open space. I mean, there's a lot of open space. Yes, the clouds are big, but they're mostly done. And there's this banner down here that's pretty full, but there's a lot of open space here. And this design is not humongous. So I think that it's within the realm of possibility to finish by the end of the year, but we'll kind of wait and see. At this point, it's a goal, but it's not a super super important goal, if you will. This is on a 32 count Belfast linen in Keone by Under the Sea Fabrics. This is double dipped Keone, so it's a little bit darker than the average Keone. I have no idea if that colorway is still available from Leslie, but check out her website if you're looking for something like this. It's a good moody purpley gray purple kind of color. So I worked on this for 2 days and did 160 stitches, a whopping 160 stitches. Yeah, it wasn't a big stitchy time. I think that was like the first days of baby does stuff going to preschool, so wasn't the time. But I've gotten further along on this cloud. This cloud is done. So this was really just an opportunity for me to work on this and kind of assess if the feasibility of finishing it by the end of the year is possible. It's possible. So we'll see. We'll see. So that is Garden of Erie. I'm stitching that with the called for DMC, Anchor Black instead of DMC 310. Up next, we've got 2 more projects to get through. Up next is living in this project bag. This is Summer Sampler by the Cooler Design Studio. Preview here of what this will look like finished. You can find this on the Cooler Design Studio website, and it is pseudo pattern keeper compatible. We'll go with that. This one has lots of backstitch and some quarter stitches and French knots, which are not PK things. So just a heads up there. This is another of my small monthly goals, and I worked on it twice. So my July small monthly goal and again in August. I am stitching this on 32 count cream Belfast linen from Zweigart. Called for threads, 2/2. And here is where I'm up to with another piece that I could maybe call my favorite. I love this. I really do. I have so much fun with this. You know, I say all the time that I am not a summer person, but I enjoy stitching summer. I really do. I enjoy stitching summer because I like all the color. So, zoom in a little bit on the section that I have been working on. I've been working on this picnic basket and picnic blanket here. So in July, I finished up... Did I finish up the fork, spoon, and knife that you can kind of see there, and you'll see a lot better once I do backstitch. I think I finished that up in July and got going on the blue and white heart checker part of the picnic blanket. And then in August, I really got going on the border of that with the cherries. I love this so much. I don't know why. I don't know what it does, what this is doing for me, but I enjoy it. So I guess that's all it really needs to be, right? I enjoy stitching on this one very much and look forward to working on it every single month. whenever I get it out, I'm giddy. I'm excited to work on this one. So yeah, so that's where I'm up to with Summer Sampler. I have kind of made the unofficial decision that I'm not doing any backstitch this year. This year's just going to be cross stitch. With 4 months left of the year, that's 1,200 stitches. I'm going to be lucky to get into this big block here with the cross stitch. I was really thinking I was going to get all of that finished, but yeah, that's maybe not, maybe not going to happen. So anyway, so that is Summer Sampler. Love this project. Okay, last project is my other full coverage WIP project for the month of August. And that lives in this project bag, also by the brass button. These pretty blue flowers. And in here lives April by Anna Dittman. April is also by Heaven and Earth Designs. I believe this is still available, so that's exciting. A lot like Personal Sunshine, this is also on not pre-gridded antique white 25 count Lagana. I started these in 2016, and so that was before that was really a common thing, before the easy grid was common. So, like I said, this came up for August WIP Go, and it had 2 spaces on my WIP Go board The first one was to get half of the page done, and I have done that. So I'm working here in page 8. I wish that I could express effectively enough just how soothing this was to work on. I'm not stitching like anything. There's not crisp edges of a motif. I'm not making like I'm thinking haunted house when I was making the leaf. Like I'm not making anything like that. It's hair, but it's also like amorphous swoops and just flowing color. This project is so soothing. It is so comforting. I didn't want to stop. I didn't want to. I wanted to keep going. It's going to come up again for WIP Go. There's only 4 months left of the year, so it will come up again. But I didn't want to stop. And just plain and simple, I just love it. I mean, I really do. So I am very much looking forward to this coming up for WIP Go again. I put it into the universe when I made my post on Instagram. I'm really hoping this comes up in September because I want to get to it now. ASAP. If I have my druthers, if I can put any influence into the WIP Go world, I want this one. And I have no idea what space that is, so I don't have my boards memorized like that. Anyway, so that's where I'm up to with April. I love this. See it again soon, for sure. So that is all that I have worked on. No, that's not true. I have also worked on Secret Stitch, but since it's a secret, I did not bring that here to show you today. So just know that I've worked on that and reached my small monthly goal on it in the last 6 weeks. So that is officially all I have worked on. And so we're going to talk about some plans, some upcoming plans. As I said, today's the 24th, so we've got about a week left of the month of August. Wow, that's wild. And so I have a couple of things on the to-do list, but if I'm being honest, most of them are going to get pushed. So we have Touching the Autumn Sky. That poor project. I keep neglecting it. And that one, once again, is going to get pushed. Whether I get caught up and accomplish all of the backlog of small monthly goals, or if I just let that go and whatnot. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe I just let that go and just... Okay, decision made. I'm not going to get to that this month. I am just going to wipe the slate clean. I'm not going to try to play catch up with it. It's just too much at this point. There's not enough time left of the year, and I keep adding goals. So, yeah, decision made. I will just try to aim for my 500 stitches each month for the rest of the year after August. Non-full coverage WIP Go. So for me, non-full coverage WIP Go in August was October Quaker by From the Heart Needleart by Wendy. Since I am actively working on September, that one will wait until I am able to. I'm not too stressed about that series. I'll get to it when I get to it. I also have Charlotte Griffiths by Little Robin Designs that came up for non-full coverage WIP Go. That one I put on the frame this week and then didn't stitch for 2 or 3 days, and now I can't remember how much it was. But like 2 days I didn't stitch at all. It was on the frame, it was ready for me, and I just didn't work on it at all. So that one I am going to work on in September. I think I might be more in the mood to work on a sampler in Sampler September, so I will just push that one. Non-full coverage WIP Go is super low priority. It's kind of like my bonus WIP Go board, just to kind of offset the full coverage focus for the year. It was just to kind of be a palette cleanser WIP Go board. So if I accomplish the goal in time, or if I don't, I'm not worried about it. Personal Sunshine is on the goals list for this month. I have also 2 full coverage WIP Go pieces from June that I have yet to work on. And once again, they're going to get pushed. I would really like to accomplish the full coverage WIP Go board since that's the focus for the year. But also going to give myself some grace. And if I don't accomplish it, then I don't accomplish it. This is low stakes. WIP Go is meant to be low stakes. I have decided that I'm probably going to have a new start before the end of August. These are the reasons why I can't accomplish all of my goals, because I keep adding in different things. Between spending extra time on Ragnarok and adding in Garden of Eerie, and I was even supposed to work on Stark House Banner every month. Like, you know. Anyway, I can't stick to my own rules. But I do think that I'm going to start the 2024 Prairie Schooler Santa before the end of the month here. Because we are in preschool, I have car stitching. Pickup is at a certain time, and I like to get there a little bit early just to be sure that I get a good spot. And so I think I'm going to start this 2024 Santa and have it as my car project. So it's going to go into a nudge and just be ready to go. It's only 6 colors. I feel like this is a great one to have as my car project. So that's going to be the plan there. This is pretty perfect because there's that little horse there, and Baby Does Stuff, her preschool is on a farm. It's a horse farm, so they have horses and whatnot. I'm really bummed this week because she was home. She missed out on a nature walk where they walked around the barn and got to see the horses. Later on, they're going to do pony rides. Just very, very cool. So this is a pretty perfect one to start with, given that there's that toy horse there. So that's going to be something that I start before the end of the month here. So it's going to be Personal Sunshine and Prairie Schooler for me for the rest of August. So looking at the clock, I'm going to hold books. We're going to talk about books on Wednesday. Like I said, I'm really close to finishing a book that I'm probably going to finish up tonight. So we will talk about books in my next update video, where I talk about a whole bunch of things and very little WIP update. Yeah. Plus, my FlossTube itchy nose is insane today. So we're going to call it here. So I am going to head off. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for your continued support of me and my channel. I hope that you're well. I hope that you're stitching. As always, be kind, and I will see you in just a few days. Take care, y'all.